And welcome back. About 42% of the general U.S. adult population has low vitamin D levels. That number is even higher among Hispanics and African Americans. Besides promoting calcium absorption and bone health, vitamin D may also affect the brain and cognitive function. A study looked at the association between baseline vitamin D levels and the rate of cognitive decline in a group of ethnically diverse older adults.
This health tip is brought to you by
Desert View Hospital and Mountain Valley Physicians Group. Don't put your health on hold. We have time for you. Call us to schedule your appointment. 775-751-7100.
Sunlight and diet are the two main sources of vitamin D. Many people also take vitamin D supplements. However, having a low vitamin D level is still very common.
As the population ages, the fastest growing segment are the old and the oldest of old. And with that is an increase in the risk of cognitive dysfunction and outright Alzheimer's disease and dementia.
Dr. Joshua Miller from Rutgers University, along with colleagues from the University of California, Davis, studied 382 older adults with an average age of 75. 61% were women, 41% white, about 30% African American, and 25% Hispanic.
Some of the subjects had outright dementia, some had mild cognitive impairment, and some had what we would call normal cognitive functioning.
Vitamin D levels and cognitive function were measured at baseline. Cognitive function was also followed in 318 of the participants for an average of 5 years.
About 60% of the group, regardless of their race or ethnicity, was low in vitamin D. Those who had dementia also had lower vitamin D status than those who had mild cognitive impairment or who had normal cognitive functioning.
Those low in vitamin D declined more in short-term memory, known as episodic memory, as well as more complex cognitive tasks, known as executive function.
They were declining about 2.5 times faster than those who had adequate vitamin D.
Catherine Dolf, The JAMA Report.
This study is observational. Future studies are needed to determine whether vitamin D supplements can slow cognitive decline. The U.S. Forest Service today announced that it has identified an additional 26 million trees dead in California since October of 2015. These trees are located in 6 counties across 760,000 acres in the Sierra Nevada region of the state and are in addition to the 40 million trees that died statewide from 2010 to October of 2015, bringing the total to at least 66 million dead trees. 4 consecutive years of severe drought in California, a dramatic rise in bark beetle infestation, and warmer temperatures are leading to the historic levels of tree die-off. Last fall, Governor Brown declared a state of emergency on the unprecedented tree die-off in California and formed a tree mortality task force to help mobilize additional resources for the safe removal of dead and dying trees. The Forest Service is committing significant resources to restore impacted forests, including reprioritizing $32 million in California to conduct safety-focused restoration along roads, trails, and recreational sites. To date, the Forest Service has felled over 77,000 hazard trees, treated over 13,000 acres along 228 miles of roads around communities and recreation sites, and created 1,100 acres of field breaks. Work on another 15,000 acres is in progress. Fire Chief Scott Lewis had some tips for the seniors during this hot weather.
Welcome to Health and Safety Tips for Seniors. This week, Chief Scott Lewis from Pahrump Valley Fire and Rescue is here to address common sense tips for seniors now that our dangerously high temperatures have started.
Went from a very comfortable temperature for an extended period of time to almost overnight now. We're well into the triple digits, and for this particular week, we're going to be even higher. You know, we're going up to around 115, 117. So what seniors can do is they didn't necessarily have the time to prepare maybe appropriately. It's time to make sure that they have the appropriate amount of water in storage at their houses. They want to make sure that their air conditioning and their swamp coolers are functioning and in good operating order before these heat waves. We want to also make sure that they try and reduce the amount of heat intake into their homes during the course of the day. That can be including things like shutting some blinds, things like those, and drapes. That helps reduce the heat load, so then it can also impact in a positive way their power draw. If they're unable to do those types of things, they need to try and get out to the community center and to some of the other areas where there is air conditioning and there's other people, so they can also monitor for signs of heat exhaustion or even worse, heat stroke. As soon as they start feeling improper, or they don't feel as well as they normally do, or they start feeling that something's wrong, they're starting to show signs of maybe not being as cognitive or the awareness is dropping, make sure they call 911. That way we can check for dehydration and in the appropriate cases transport them to the local hospital.
What do they need to do? What key points can you share to make sure no harm comes to our seniors because of the heat? And you covered a bunch of them. What about the hydration and eating?
Hydration is so important, even if you don't feel thirsty at the time. Keep sipping water throughout the course of the day and monitor your urination. Make sure you have good, clear color. If it's starting to get dark, you're getting dehydrated. More often than not, dehydration comes at the tail end. In other words, you're already well into dehydration before you start recognizing the signs and symptoms. So stay hydrated. Keep a glass of water with you at all times. Constantly sipping it. Doesn't mean you have to down it down, but constantly sipping and keep hydrated throughout the course of any given day.
Well, the Pahrump Valley Rotary Club has added again. We'll tell you all about that story when we return.